My name's Ty. I'm the kids pastor here at Rez. Love what I do, so thankful. Such a privilege.
I'm Landon. I'm the youth pastor here. And man, love what I get to do too. It's amazing.
I'm Zach. I'm one of the associate lead pastors.
I'm Andrew. I'm the worship and production pastor.
I love it. I love every one of you guys.
Love you, bro.
There's a few things actually I want us to talk about, like how did your watch parties go?
Yeah.
Some other things about the message that Pastor Jonathan shared, how challenging and insightful and clear his leadership is for our lives. The first thing I want to say, though, is, let's put it right here. We're clean, we're keeping it clean, we're modeling what safe and sanitary looks like. Nobody gets to drink out of my water bottle today. We're going to keep it clean. Wash your hands, do the stuff. It's good stuff. But let me just say this.
I don't think we're doing social distancing right, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're a
really
little
You
are.
should
too
be about
close.
6 feet that
Yeah,
way.
I was gonna
You
say,
should be about 6 feet that
Andrew
way.
and I, we're
Pacing.
doing good right now.
We need a longer table.
You're a little close to me.
My love for you will keep me close. My love for my family will keep me at a
Aw,
safe distance.
precious.
Is that good? Was that good?
That was like a one-liner. That's kind of a zinger.
Okay, tell
should
me
quote
this.
that.
How did you guys feel while Pastor Jonathan was preaching? Before we get into watch parties, how did you feel? Because I felt like he was a little bit intense, but I also know him personally. I know his personality, that he is extremely happy, but he had a message for us this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah,
And
that
you
was a
guys tell
word.
me a little bit.
Man.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, the whole message was so impactful, just talking about having faith over fear, because this is such a season where, like, fear has gripped our nation, and more than just our nation, like, our world has been just chaos and anxiety and fear, and just, man, I thought it was just so encouraging in that moment to know that we have such a strong leader at this church that's leading the way, that's being proactive, not passive in this moment, and he's setting the tone for where Rez.Church is going to go and what's going to happen, and I mean, just him even giving up his salary. I mean, that's leadership. I can't even imagine having to make that decision. And it just blows me away that we have a pastor that's willing to volunteer his time to make sure that, man, we're okay in this season and that we don't have to worry.
Yeah.
We technically introduced him as our pastor, but he said himself he is like the dream team in chief of dream teams.
Like
he is
the
in charge
CEO
as a
of
dream team level.
Wow.
If that doesn't inspire somebody
Come on.
who is a part of Rez, a part of the family,
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure what does. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I thought it was just such a command. You guys said it was intense. There was a command and an authority that was in it that was really present in my living room as we were in my watch party, where I was like all ears for what he was communicating, and I thought it was pretty impactful hearing just what Rez's stance is in this time, and really what he was saying is as Christians what our stance should be in a time full of fear.
Yeah.
What having faith looks like. The way that he was communicating it spoke to me, spoke to the room that I was in, to be able to hear in such an important time.
Yeah, I think fear often feels intense, but love can feel intense too.
Right.
Yeah.
And for him to say, I'm motivated by love, I'm giving this up, something that he's owed,
Right.
That, I don't know, that was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You,
Good.
you hear a lot of people like preach great messages on being compelled by love, but rarely do you see it modeled authentically.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot watch that message and be close to Pastor Jonathan and hear what he's doing and not be challenged and not be stirred.
It's so tangible. Like, it's the actions. I mean, it stirred me, like, in my soul. I mean,
How often do you see a CEO give up their salary
never.
so that everyone else can keep getting paid?
Right.
Oh, that's our leader.
Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing.
And even more than that, when he talks about his heart behind it, is he's like, don't feel sorry for me. He wants to reach the community.
Right.
Yeah.
He wants to make sure that the vulnerable of the community, those who can't take care of themselves, have somebody to help them.
It's awesome.
He even talked to us a little bit later on about, like, maybe you have a child with special needs and you can't get the wipes that you need or the diapers that you need, or an elderly person in your group that just needs help, and maybe they can't get what they need right now because of what's going on in the world, and that his heart is to give it up so that they can have what they need.
Yeah.
It's like powerful stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things Jonathan said was, never let a crisis go to waste. And I think Marcus said this, one of our MDs, but the reason it was intense is because this is important.
Right.
It's important that
Right.
people see the hope
Right.
of God and the love of God in
So good.
action,
Yeah.
outside of buildings. And
The one thing he said in staff meeting this morning that I thought was so powerful, he said, God doesn't send viruses but he does get the glory out of crisis.
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I think that's what's going to happen in this season is like, he posted on Facebook, hey, the church was not canceled. Today the church was unleashed. Like, how did that impact you? I mean, for me, that was like, that hit me, and I said, oh my gosh, this is historic, really. This is like Book of Acts. Like, people are always talking about the Book of Acts, house church. This is our opportunity to test our small group models, to grow. We should not think, man, church is canceled, like the church is going to have any kind of issue, because, man, this should be the time that we should be expanding. It was during that time they were meeting in homes and having gladness of heart and sharing meals, right? And it says that the Lord added to the church daily in that setting, in that context. The Lord should be adding to the church in this context as we grow our small groups, as we reach our communities and knock on our neighbors' doors and invite them to our watch parties, right?
One thing I loved about this weekend's experience is that it happened in people's homes. We call them watch parties. It was this thing that just launched spur of the moment, like Saturday all of a sudden.
That's right.
And then our social media presence was super high.
Yeah.
How important is it that we're a presence on social media and that the people who are a part of Rez, engage with Rez, keep engaged through social media?
I mean, I think personally, social media, when we talk about preaching, like preaching is communicating, it's talking about the good news of Jesus. And I think we can almost do that individually, like through our social media engagement, through liking, through commenting, through sharing, through taking what Pastor Jonathan's talking about and reposting it. I think that's a way that we can engage our community with the gospel. Like, that's how we can engage them with the good news of Jesus, is just by taking, PJ's message, by taking these encouraging quotes and actually participating. And I loved it. I love seeing everyone comment and like and share. I just felt like it's such an environment of encouraging each other too, like getting on there saying, love this, love your watch party, love you, love your heart, love your leadership.
Right.
Like, I felt it was super encouraging.
Yeah. I would say we saw a huge influx this week, I felt like, of just the community's engagement with Rez on social media.
Totally.
And even that, like you said, in about 24 hours, 43 watch parties came out of it, which is awesome.
Yeah. So
but also
good.
we know in this time, we're going to have to see that number continue to ramp and ramp and ramp if we're going to keep reaching without our buildings being open, reaching our communities, reaching our neighbors. It's such a good opportunity, but we're going to have to keep pushing that, keep full pedal to the metal with our watch parties, with our engagement, if we're going to see this spread the way that it needs to.
Well, speaking of watch parties, how was your guys' watch parties? Because we all had a watch party, I think, right? Each of us kind of held one. So, like, can we talk about that? Like, what was your watch party like?
Yeah.
Like, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of like, we don't know what's going to happen about this. What it looked like for us is we put out an invitation on social media. My wife and I talked about, like, what if we have a pretty small house? We're like, what if there's 30 people here with 15 kids or whatever? So we're thinking like, okay, what would we do if that happened? And then in reality, what we saw is a couple people reached out, responded to our invite. So we were like, okay, this might be a little bit smaller. And it made us realize a good strategy for us moving forward is really going to be instead like maybe both the social media invite, but also getting a little bit more intentional with some personal invites is something that we're going to work on this week leading into our watch party for next week, because it was cool. We had two people who don't even regularly go to Rez. Those were the only two people who responded to our invitation. So then we kind of joined forces with another watch party and had a really great time. It was
so cool.
Like we had donuts, we made some coffee, hung out for a little bit,
What
and
else
then
do you
got
need?
into it. Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So good.
We had a great watch party too. We got those Starbucks traveler things.
Yeah.
They serve like 12 people coffee. They
There
give
you
you
go.
all the cups,
Oh, yeah.
Fancy.
all the creamer, all the sugar,
Smart.
and had a few pastries. And then we put the kids in a room with an adult watching over them, and they enjoyed our Rez Kids experience and loved it. That was amazing. And then we all watched together and debriefed the message. And
Cool.
It was awesome. Yeah, I think we had a pretty big group, so we're probably going to split into two this week.
Cool.
Which is fun.
That's really good.
Speaking of kids, that was a learning curve for my watch
Right.
party. Mind you, because I have a 4-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl. At one point, we were all praying for each other, and a blood-curdling scream came out of the other. And I ran in, and one of my kids had hit my other kid in the face, and it was like, okay, this is going to take a little bit of work to figure out this out. But still, it was like, this is fun. This is something
It's
that
life, right?
Yeah, right. It's like
Yeah.
I'm for this challenge if this is what we're figuring out right now.
Yeah.
I kind of hope this thing sticks even into the day where we can meet as big church again,
Right.
because it's so fun to be in people's homes. But
Yeah.
my watch party, I'll just be honest with you guys, it felt like a little bit of a flop, and I think that's okay. I hope I'm not the only one. like we had a number of people kind of signed up, text us that they were going to be there, and then actually, I think this is important too. One of our kids started running a fever on Saturday, and then it started spiking up on Saturday night, and so we're just sitting there weighing like, hey man, it's really important that we're moving the culture of Rez, and we're leading well, and we're connecting to other families, but also like practical wisdom looks like let's protect people in this time. And so we actually canceled ours. One cool thing though, there was a guy that didn't get the message, and he knocks on the door like 10 minutes after it would have started. He's like, hey, I'm here for the watch party, and I had to just break the news to him. I felt sad that he didn't get the message. I just think I didn't get it to him the way he needed it. But another point on that was I knew of other watch parties in Greeley where I live that were happening. I called one person, was like, hey, we got a guy, we had to cancel to protect him. Can he jump into yours? And he took the phone. He's like, yeah, come on over. Here's my address. We're not going to start without you. Wow. And I felt like, really wow, that makes this guy feel super loved and gives him the opportunity to still connect even though we had to cancel. Yeah. So that was our experience.
I do think like the personal invite is going to be huge for us in this season, because there's just something when you tell someone personally, hey, come to my home, it's just a different thing. And we had our neighbors, I went outside and I went and knocked on my neighbors' doors at 8:30 in the morning. It was like, hey, at 9:30, we're hanging out, having a watch party. We'd love for you guys to come. One was doing baseball and one was doing something else. But it ended up being where they came over later. And so even though they didn't come for the watch party service point, they came over and they shared that they were of a different faith. But we ended up having a great conversation, got to share about what Pastor Jonathan's heart is and what Rez.Church is doing moving forward with these watch parties. And they loved the idea of community and even asked, hey, on Easter, do you guys want to get together and like play some songs together? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we're kind of having our own little worship service. And it just is a cool thing. I haven't talked to those neighbors. Like I had never gotten to meet them. Yeah. And so it forced me to go out, to love my community, to meet my neighbors. And man, it was awesome. So I'm excited to see what all can happen with reaching our neighborhoods. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The opportunity for the church to mobilize right now is unreal.
Absolutely.
To bring people that would normally feel threatened by a building or a big community, of Christians, to have a snack, a hangout time, and conversations. It's amazing. And we have a lot of cool stories coming in from that this week.
Yeah. So good.
It really provides ministry opportunities in every city and local community that people already live. It's really just taking the church into the city on another level. Oh, yeah. I've been thinking about this, talking about it with my team, is we have over 100 people who are on our Rez Kids Dream Team at different locations. And what if each one of them could be mobilized in this way where they're connecting with other families, and whether those families go to Rez or not isn't actually the most important thing, but that people stay connected because of the fear that's happening in society today, which we should definitely talk about and get our dream team leader-in-chief. Let's talk about what he had to say about fear this weekend. It was so good. But because of the amount of fear that people have, if they isolate, they'll not survive. Like one of the most important things for not just surviving but thriving is being surrounded by people that love you. So I just think it's so important that we as a church continue to invest into the small groups and see people be healthy.
I think it's pretty cool that, we have 3 campuses, right? Moving to 4 with Rio, Brazil. But man, this opportunity really lets us plan a campus in Fort Collins and in Estes. And I heard about a watch party in Texas. And man, we're expanding the footprint of Rez in this season to where we're all growing our family. Like the Rez family is getting larger. Yeah. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool.
That's awesome.
So Pastor Jonathan, he used the verse from 2 Timothy 1:7. He said, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. So as you guys were watching service, engaging at your watch parties, what were some things that really stuck out to you about Pastor Jonathan's message yesterday?
Yeah, I loved just the contrast of what does living your life in fear look like separate from living connected to faith, having full of love, power, and sound mind. He talked about sound thinking a lot, which I thought really cut through just kind of sermons I've heard in the past. How many sermons have I heard about love and about power? Yeah. But sermons about sound thinking. He talked about how when the September 11th tragedy happened, that in his small community of Lake Providence, Louisiana, everybody was worried that they were the next terrorist hit.
Right.
I remember thinking about that, and
Yeah.
as a kid, when September 11th, 2001 happened, that I remember being at a gas station with my mom and hearing on the radio them talking about how Colorado might be a next target, and I didn't know why. I was a kid, but just being so afraid of it. And Pastor Jonathan talked about, is Al Qaeda really going to choose Lake Providence, Louisiana, as their next target? And he's like, that's not aligned with sound thinking. He's just saying it's like a way to. He's so intentional to acknowledge the true risk, the true points to pay attention to, but not to do it in fear. Even the things that are worth taking really seriously is not through fear. It's through sound thinking, love, and power. I think that's a really helpful tool for all of us.
Yeah, and I feel like the emphasis on sound thinking is important, because I've heard that message, like the idea of that verse preached in messages before. They always kind of focus on just the love portion. Sometimes the sound mind, sound thinking kind of gets left out.
Sure.
And I love that the emphasis. He put such an emphasis on this sound thinking and taking precautions and being overly careful if we have to in order to protect people. I love that.
Yeah.
I think I'd heard a story of a lady this week who has 6 months of toilet paper stockpiled at her house, and she was ready to go back for more. And we started talking about it, and it was the only reason was, I don't know, I see everyone else going for it, so I feel like I need it.
Yeah.
And so coming back to that sound mind, especially as believers,
Right.
that we're motivated by love. And knowing there's actually families that don't have toilet paper right now because someone else has 2 years worth.
Yeah.
And Pastor Jonathan was saying we've heard stories of families that don't have wipes for their kids
Yeah.
because someone else has a year's stockpiled.
Right.
And so that sound mind, again, is just coming back of, why am I doing this?
That's
Right.
great.
And is this motivated by love?
Right.
And what you just said too is the reason that she's stockpiling toilet paper is because she sees everyone else doing it. It's like such a leadership moment of like, people will follow like where there's passion, and if you put fear as the motivator, then they're gonna go and stockpile toilet paper. But if we can show them passion in this moment, we can show them a direction and give them people to follow. Man, we're gonna lead people to Jesus in this season. But they need to see that. They need to see power, love, and sound thinking, and they will follow in that vein. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Zach, you said, Jonathan said that faith is more rational than fear this weekend. Faith is more rational than fear. And I was sitting there listening to it thinking, it's true, but I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Like, I need a concrete example. And I think you talking about people having 2 years worth of toilet paper gives me that concrete example, that in a moment where things are so uncertain, the logical answer is to buy as much toilet paper as you can so you don't run out. The logical answer is to hold on really tightly to the things that we think we need, and we bring security. Yet, guys, we have a leader who did this and let go of everything, like income, security, emergency fund. He is modeling in a moment where actually it's okay for you to do this because you think this is the only way to survive. He's like, the real kingdom generosity principle is, I'm going to give away even more.
Yeah.
Like, that's what he did this weekend.
Yeah, that models Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Jesus said, if someone asks you for your shirt, give him your coat too.
Right.
And seeing our leader model not just, hey, I get one and you get one, but you can have mine too.
Wow. Yeah, it actually reminded me too, just to make sure that my online giving was turned on, because before I used to drop a check in or whatever, so it made me go, I need to make sure this is reoccurring and it's on. And so that initially was one thing that hit me too. Is like, man, don't forsake that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is not the time.
Yeah. One thing that I feel like we all are noticing right now is how, it's the point of the message was, there's so much fear around this, there's so much anxiety, but also people's regular lives, what is causing anxiety right now, the coronavirus, there's things before that were causing anxiety in people's lives. It's just so applicable. There was a couple that was at my watch party, and they're in a really big transitional life season, so they were able to share separate from the coronavirus. We have all this anxiety in life right now that we're experiencing, and this is helping us try to think about what would love do in this situation? What's the difference between how fear would respond and anxiety, fear that would just build into the anxiety that they're already feeling. But what would love do? Like, what would a solid, anchored decision that comes from love, what would that do in this moment? Wow. So it was cool, yeah.
Andrew, I love that in your watch party weekend service, you had small group intentionality.
Yeah.
Like on a normal weekend service where you're a part of worship or whatever you're doing here at Rez, you don't always get to take the time with people and hear what is bringing them anxiety. Yet in a weekend service in your home, you got to go there with people. And I think that could be a fruit of what we're seeing of watch parties and small groups and the church getting into the home is we will not be able to just pass by each other in the living room of Rez because it's a big space and we got to move fast. We actually have to stop and be with one another, which is like the heart's cry of people in our culture today. It's amazing. That's amazing to me that you were able to go there and talk about somebody's anxiety in your home.
It's a cool moment. And what I'm seeing too with hosting these things is all the people need is just an opportunity to talk about what's on their hearts, you know? Yeah. And so what better topic than saying like anxiety? Being able to say, hey, is there anything in your life that's causing anxiety that we can pray for and that we can be a community around each other for? Wow. It's perfect, the situation for it.
One other thing I saw in the weekend message and then shortly after, just following social media. So Pastor Jonathan, he made the announcement that he's given up his salary to serve the community, to make sure nobody goes without what they need. He's just making that decision. He's compelled by love. Immediately after service was over, it was like 9 a.m. I don't remember what time it went live, but 9 a.m., whatever. This guy who's a part of Rez, he posts on there on his page like, hey, I'm a small business owner. I'm going to give free consultations to anybody who wants one. Wow. And what I felt like was at a local level, immediate seed of generosity. Cool. That person was inspired from what our pastor did. And they're like, you know what? I can help too. I think of when Jesus fed the multitude with the lunch of a little boy. Yeah. They were looking around thinking, what do we have to give? People are hungry. We're going to have to send them away, like a little bit of a crisis moment, so to speak. Yet, here's what we have to offer. A child brought up a lunch. He said, here's what I have. And in that phrase, like, here's what you have to offer to Jesus is so much bigger than me thinking about what I can hold on to. And in that moment, 5,000 people and then some were fed. Yeah. And I just think, like, what is going to happen in the spirit of generosity because of the decision our pastor made? Cool. Yeah. I would love to see the stories and hear about what people are doing. If you know of stuff, if you're watching this podcast, like, I'd love to hear what people are doing. How have they been inspired by Pastor Jonathan's leadership? Yeah. And how can we continue to move forward? It's not necessarily just about Rez, but about reaching our communities and realizing that every individual has something to offer, being aware of the needs of the people around us, and then just going for it, just giving and pressing in so people can have what they need.
Yeah, it's kingdom generosity.
I love hearing about what some people are doing. Some of it is financial, and every bit helps right now, mobilize the kingdom and the church. But hearing the stories, there's people in our church that are delivering groceries to those scared to get out of their house.
Yes,
that's
so cool.
There's a couple that owns a restaurant, and their kids eat free right now because schools are closed down, and they realize not all families have the ability to pay for food that the school is providing. So they're providing food free. It's not buy one get one. It's just free. So it's just taking, like you said, whatever you have, whatever God's given you, and using it.
Yeah.
It's unlocking. It feels like it's really unlocking what could be happening. We talked about this a little bit, but that a natural reaction would be to hoard and to just keep for myself. But what this is actually unlocking is, like, how could I be generous in this time? We're seeing that led by our leader. Yep. And then it's made me think the same thing. Like, what kind of generosity opportunities does my family have in this moment?
It's that see a need, meet a need idea. Cool. And I think we need small groups right now. We need community more than ever. So it's leading people that haven't led a small group before, taking that responsibility, saying, you know what, I have a home, I have a living room, I have a TV that I can turn it on to YouTube or turn it on to Facebook Live, and leading a small group and letting people come to your house and grow.
Yeah. Well, it's important to stay connected, whether it's through the friendships you have or social media, because what I have to offer is helpful to people, but collectively what we have to offer, it's like in Acts when they brought their resources and laid them at the apostles' feet.
Yeah.
They could actually do more with that thing. I could give an amount of money to somebody and it would help them out, but collectively our resources are just more powerful for Northern Colorado. So if you stay connected through social media, hear about what's going on, we have incredible resources together to be able to bless people.
It's almost like this just came to my head, but there's protection and connection.
Totally.
So like even as we stay connected, we can care for each other, because I've already heard of people losing their jobs because of this coronavirus stuff. And when you're connected to a community of people that care about you and love you, they can meet your needs, where when you isolate, things start going wrong, you start to worry, something happens to your job, something happens to your family, it's like you're not able to be protected. And I think there's such protection that comes with that connection. So let's stay connected in these next few weeks and season and just however long it is, and just really lean into Jesus in this time.
Yeah, and I would just say stay connected and reach out to those that look isolated.
It's
good.
So good.
And that's, I think, us being motivated by love and not just self-preservation. Right. We definitely need to meet. We need to get together, and then look for those people that need community and bring them into our watch parties. I think we have an opportunity to bring the gospel, bring the church into someone's living room that would never step into our buildings.
So good.
Right.
And that's why sharing is so important.
Key.
That's why posting,
Right.
Starting your own watch party, even if you don't know what you're doing, we'll learn together.
Yeah.
We'll figure this thing out. But look for those that need community, that need hope, and the love of Jesus. But
So good.
I love it. Guys, I love our time together. I think we're going to wrap up. But one last thing. Jonathan said, let your faith be expressed through love, because love is a louder voice than fear and hatred.
Wow.
And if we could just live with that in mind, then we'll see the needs of individuals.
Come on.
And we'll see the people who need connected.
Yeah,
That's great.
That love would be the loudest voice in people's lives. And let's model that thing.
Wow.